Welcome to the Art of Hobbyness, where Tam and I talk about all things hobbies and how to find happiness through them.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us again. And today we have a fun topic, reflecting back on some of our hidden hobbies, as we like to call them.
Yes. Erin, I don't know about you, but I cannot get enough of us sitting here just talking to each other.
I know. It's so fun.
But yes. Okay. So we dabbled a little bit of this in a previous episode about discovering that maybe you and I actually did have some hobbies underlying that we've now termed as hidden hobbies. And we wanted to go back and kind of reflect on that on our own time and then kind of come back and talk about this.
Yep.
So we've had time. We've done some reflecting. I'm dying to know, after you've reflected on yourself, what would you consider your hidden hobbies?
So I did go back and think about this a lot because I think there was things that I had been not considering as hobbies because I just thought they're normal daily life or just a normal part of who I am and didn't really think about it. But I definitely in the past few years have picked up reading a lot. I do a lot of audiobooks, a lot of podcasts. I love to just kind of consume information, fictional and non-fictional. So that's definitely something that I do a lot of every day, really. So I don't know why I never consider that a hobby.
Right.
And then exercise, that's a big part of my life too. At least 3 times a week, I try to get out of the house and go do something outside the house as exercise for myself. Traveling, less now with kids, but it's definitely still something we've tried to prioritize with having kids. We made a goal, me and Adam even made a goal last year to big or small, take our kids on 4 trips a year.
Wow.
And so, I think that's another thing. And in pre-kids, we traveled a lot. That was a really big thing.
Yeah,
so,
you guys did travel a lot.
I really enjoy not just going somewhere, but just the act of traveling. I love getting ready for the airport and getting
Even
on the airplane.
packing?
And,
you like packing?
I mean, I don't necessarily like packing.
I was my God, just hearing the idea of packing, I'm like, well, that's at least 3 days of a mental load before I do that.
I like the planning and the anticipation before the activity and then just the steps to get there. I like all that stuff. So that was the other one. And then trying new restaurants and trying going out to eat at different places. So those are kind of the ones I came up with that I just kind of consider them as part of who I am. But I do think that they can be considered hobbies as well.
That's interesting because, you started off with being here's a list of things that I considered as who I am, and then switched over to this is my hidden hobby, right? So I think we've caught on to there's a trend of our perception, our personal perception of what a hobby was our block, right?
And maybe societies too,
and maybe even societies, and why does a hobby, or even just a general interest that you have, why does it have to be separated from who you are and just being a hobby? Why can't those be intertwining? Or because one exists? There's somebody recently told me that 2 things can be true, right?
Yep.
So I feel like a hobby can be a hobby, but it can also still be a part of you.
Yeah.
And when we first started this journey, you talked about how you hinted at that you exercise, but you were I wouldn't consider that a hobby. You were very much that's not a hobby. But then when you sat and reflected a little bit, you're like, well, maybe that is a hobby. I'm very curious to hear what you thought about when you sat there and reflected a little bit. And I'll tell you why I'm curious. Because when I sat and walked away from this and thought about my hidden hobbies, right? I found it very challenging to not argue with myself. I would sit there and I would be like, okay, what's my hobbies? For instance, one of them I was I very much like Southwest jewelry, specifically old pawn. And so I have a couple of pieces in my collection. Used the word collection to really kind of hone in on hobby because I feel like collection is associated with hobbies. But then I almost kind of argued with myself and I was like, no, that doesn't count. And then I was like, well, but why doesn't it count? And in my mind, I was like, you're listening to Tamara's inner monologue.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine.
Here's a little dabble into what Tamara's brain looks like. But so then my inner monologue is going on and it's going, well, it's not really a hobby because it's just something that you like. Well, why am I discrediting?
That's the point.
Right?
That's the point.
Why am I putting down?
It has nothing to do with anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
So why was I putting down even... We're this far. We're how many episodes in? We've already learned so much about ourselves, and we're only just scratching the surface, in my opinion. But here I am, sitting here, really reflecting amongst my with myself about I really like Southwest pieces. I really like collecting Southwest pieces. But then I was like, no, that doesn't really count. It's just something you like. But isn't that what a hobby is?
Yeah.
Is doing something that
you like and enjoy and brings you happiness.
Joy? Right.
Yeah.
So, but why is it okay for other people to feel that, but I'm not okay with myself having that? And I'm telling you, like, just trying to prep for this episode, I struggled with my personal fights. Did you experience any of that at all?
I can't say that I went through that inner monologue of like fighting with myself about it. It was more like
I'm just very confrontational with myself.
Not at all. I think I was just started thinking, okay, what do I do outside of work and family life? You know, that are things that I do enjoy too.
Okay.
That was definitely a very important part of it. What are the things that I find fun? And so I didn't go too much deeper than that.
Okay.
I tried to keep it, you know.
So then how did you switch the working out piece? Because that's the one I'm locking into specifically. How did you switch it from it's not a hobby to a hobby? Was it just because of us having the conversation of a hidden hobby and just like putting a term to it?
I guess in my mind, like everybody works out and that's not even true. But I also thought like
Yes,
it's like a productive thing and it's like work in the sense. Like,
okay.
And so then I thought, well, that's not really a hobby. But then when I started to really think about it, I'm like, I do work out because I want to stay like healthy and fit and it makes me feel good. But I also do it because I don't just go do the same thing all the time. My part when I exercise, I think it's a hobby for me personally because I actually try to try lots of different things when I work out. So
like what kinds?
Like I try different gyms. So for example, and I'll do it for a while. I won't do it for a long time, but maybe for a year I did this boot camp gym that I went to. And then I switched over to a different gym that they offer group classes. It's like, it's called Body Pump, where it's like more weightlifting and step aerobics, you know, and just trying to like learn new things and just move body differently. Yoga. So I go through periods of time where I'm trying different things and I do get bored with them. And so I switched to something else. I just started a new gym very recently. So I think that was what I started to think about. I was like, well, it's not just for production. I do enjoy the newness and switching it up. And
so your workout, is it typically group type workouts
yes,
or
I do
is it
like,
individual?
It's always group.
Do you feel like you're making connections and like connecting with other people and making friendships in those groups, or is
not
it
necessarily?
still
I think
personal?
It's still personal. Like I actually don't enjoy talking to people too much when I get to the gym. I just want to do the workout.
I'm sweating.
However, I think just being with other people, there's something when you're in the group.
Mom mentality.
The energy of working out and like being with other people with the same like kind of goal. There's something like energizing about that. Yeah, I don't know why I switched. I think it's just because we started thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was like, well.
Just really exploring who you are. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I kind of already told you what searching for this kind of looked like for me. It was a lot of like an inner battle. But, you know, when I sat back and really thought about my personal interests, I talked about Southwest pieces. I very much really like Old Pawn. I like just like a little bit of the history behind it, like the culture.
I don't know what Old Pawn is. What is that?
So Old Pawn is pieces that were originally made with like tribes, like like Native American tribes.
Oh, okay.
And like a lot of them kind of have like stamps in them that kind of signify like some of like their origins. And they're just very unique pieces. They're very authentic. And
I think that's so cool. You probably have researched some of that and learned about it. I mean, enough to know what you're looking for, right? So that is definitely a different interest.
Yeah, and
I consider a hobby.
I don't know why I never, because I feel like if I really break down, like in my mind, like what a collector would do, because again, collector just seems like a perfect word to describe in a hobby, right? I was clearly collecting. I was researching, and it's you know, Pat and my daughters, like, they very much know that this is something that I like, because that's typically what I'm gifted, you know, whenever it's, you know, Mother's Day or birthday or something. But it's, why did I never even just kind of think of that? Maybe because most times it's gifted to me, but I do like explore these pieces, and I just think they're just so beautiful, and there's just so much detail that goes into them. And
it's like, why do you hide that from the world?
Why did I hide that? Mostly for myself.
Yeah.
Like it was hidden amongst my personality that I didn't allow myself to fully develop. And
that is something very interesting about you that you do that. But why don't you share that with people?
Don't share it with anybody, you know? And again, that was just one of them. Cause like the other one, I was like, okay, well, I do like my shoes. Like I really like, and actually I kind of changed. Like for a while there, it was heels. Like there was a very specific type of heel I was looking for. And basically it was just like the gaudier, the better. You can assume like there was an interview.
Over the top.
Yes. There was an interview once that so those who don't know me that very well, Dolly Parton is my idol. And so there was an interview.
He's actually wearing Dolly Parton earrings right now. If you
Dolly Parton's face on my earrings, if you can see me underneath my headphones, which were gifted by my lovely co-host Erin. She's so kind to me. There was a question that was asked by her, and it was like, "How do you want people to describe you?" And she said she wanted to be friendly and gaudy. And I never connected more to anything than when she said that. And it was like, that is exactly how I want to be described as. And I just, I really want to try to embrace that side of me. So anyway, that's a side note to kind of say that, like,
I feel like that in itself is its own hobby. Your love for Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus, by the way.
I do love my Miley.
So
Hi, Miles.
I think that like your interest in that is a hobby.
Yes, so. Why? And why don't I consider those like general interests? But I look at not to get like too deep into it and segue out of this, but so my daughter, right, is really into Taylor Swift. And it's interesting watching her talk about it with people because when she talks about it amongst classmates, it's all excitement. Everyone's really excited about it. But if she goes and talks to maybe older family members, she is met with ew and why and almost kind of, I don't want to say put down, but there's a negative response as opposed to like we're gonna love her too kind of thing. And I'm not saying that people need to be like interested in everything that everybody's doing, but it's interesting because I'm watching it and I'm trying to come from the female perspective, and it's like very interesting that my daughter has something that she's picked up on. It's an interest and is being met with a negative connotation. What is that going to do for this? Like, is that going to change?
That opens up so many thoughts in my head because I feel like when I start to think about as a child, that slowly happens over time. Like if you don't get a support in something, you're gonna hide it and you're gonna squash it down and keep it close to your chest because you don't want that criticism or that negative feedback.
Right.
And that is so interesting because I feel like that's probably a big part of what we're talking about, what happened here, because I'm not going to go around and be like, oh, I go and exercise and do all this to brag about. I'm not that you're bragging about it or to share it with anybody but just, gosh,
you're just more hesitant. I feel like you'd be more hesitant to be, because I can see Lennon even kind of being more hesitant
to share it with the next person.
To share it with the next person. Like she's still excited. She's still embracing it. And I can tell like when she's home, she's like all about it. But I'm just kind of trying to observe to see how this goes. Because I feel like, right now Taylor Swift is a very hot topic, and people are very responsive to it. And she's very much, girl energy, girl power, so I feel like there is probably a girl demographic specifically that's probably following her, not to say that there aren't, Taylor Swift fans that are male out there, just saying that it's interesting to me to see that a little girl is getting a reaction about something like that. So there was just a little nugget that I just wanted to kind of put out there that I was just like observing.
So something to be very careful as a parent or as an adult, like really trying to help children not lose those natural interests, right? Yeah. I just think I had this thought just now about when I was a kid, I was really into, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, I was really into acting and singing, and I wanted to be in plays.
No,
and
I didn't know that about you.
And so, and my parents, my mom did try to like get me involved in different things. And I don't know, I wasn't very good at it. I was kind of a shy kid. I definitely wasn't a good singer. And so I never got good. I probably stopped pursuing it because I didn't get a lot of positive feedback. Wow. And maybe I wasn't extroverted enough to like
overcome
keep
that
going, because I remember as a young kid really wanting to do those things. And I think it got squashed.
Interesting. I feel like there's something there, like just kind of, we kind of talked about in a recent conversation about how we I mean, we're in our 30s, right? And so for like 30
Almost
plus
40.
years, I wasn't going to tell everybody, Erin. Come on, you can still pass this.
You're right.
But I feel like, we've spent 30 plus years being hardwired, right? To be just like hustlers. And as girls, I think specifically, like it's been really stressed that we need to be academic and like excel in that academia because the ultimate goal was to get to college, right? So it was like we were really encouraged to kind of push like our efforts towards being studious. And that didn't leave a lot of room for creativity in my personal world. And I felt like, I don't know, when I look at hobbies, I guess I feel like I'm gathering that being creative and adaptable is a running theme that I don't think I really excel in right now.
Or foster. Yeah, it wasn't fostered in you, and you don't.
Yeah, I feel like I'm very much like I know if I do A, B will be the results, right? And so it's like I'm very aware of like almost like treating life like a textbook. And so therefore, because I do that, I don't ever give myself the authority to veer off of that textbook.
Or do anything that's open-ended that doesn't have an end goal or doesn't have a checklist.
Or even controversial, right? Like I feel like
that somebody else might be like, why are you doing that?
Right. Like if somebody came to me and was like, how could you possibly like Dolly Parton, right? Like would I have the guts to be like, well, let me tell you about like her entrepreneurial skills. Like let alone like, let's not even talk about her music. Let's just talk about, her philanthropy and like the dedication that she brings to her hometown.
And I think now you do have the confidence to do that. I think that if somebody did say that to you, you would, but think about when you're a child, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably like, okay, and go on, right?
But I feel like the only reason why I have that now is because I'm finding a support system.
Yeah.
And like in the running theme of how much I love you, Erin, is like because you are a friend who brings this culture for me that allows me to express who I am without consequence, like even when I think I've said something off-putting, or at least I think I've said something off-putting, when I come back to you to talk to you about it and be like, man, like I really, I hope that wasn't like how you took that. You've usually met me with, nah, like I know your heart. Like you're fine. Like it was fine. It's not even a big deal. And that's unique to me. I don't think I've had that kind of culture around me at all times. And so having someone like you help me do that, I think that's what's given me the courage to kind of be in this vulnerable state to kind of express more of who I truly am and express more of like what my hidden hobbies are, right? Yeah. Like, like you said, like my interest in Dolly and Miley Cyrus, like my interest in Southwest pieces, my interest in shoes. Like, it wasn't like, it started off as I just really liked gaudy heels. Like I wanted like the bigger, the better.
And the bleach blonde hair.
And the what are you talking? This is natural, Erin. There's no bleach hair. And then it switched to
doing this podcast.
And doing this podcast. And I know there's no way I could have done this. Like this, not only is this vulnerable, like with you, but this is vulnerable with anybody that listens to it. In a different world and a different life, I never would let myself be this vulnerable because I would be so afraid of any type of negative information that came back. Because I honestly, I think it would break me. Like, I think I would just take it and I
just shut down and stop.
And I would shut down and I would stop, right? But I agree. Feel like doing this with you, it's giving me this opportunity to kind of transition into a different, I don't want to say a different person because it's not changing me into a different person, but it's changing me into an empowered version of myself that's making me feel like it's going to be okay
in numbers,
because because Erin's going to be there, right? And like I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's maybe not going to vibe with the message that we're putting out there, and I'm sure there's somebody that's going to say negative, and I'm sure that I'll probably get my feelings hurt if I hear anything.
But
like
who cares,
right? But I feel like
we're speaking our truth,
right? I feel like. In this podcast, I really feel like I'm learning a piece of myself that I'm just relearning me. Yeah. And even just learning like the fact that like I love Southwest pieces. I love exploring that and I want more of those. It's like I need to really just let me be me. And I feel like that's something that I've really gained in doing this podcast. And I just, man, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, I know. I'm so grateful. And I think
lucky.
like I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there, as far as being
Join
vulnerable.
me.
And I'm getting there, but it's there's a lot of mental blocks
Yes.
to get through.
Yes.
And, but just doing this, I agree. Putting ourselves out there is awesome. And reflecting on our hidden hobbies has been cathartic. And, I hope that our listeners can reflect on their own lives.
Yes, please do.
And realize that everything you do that you care about matters.
Yes.
That's the takeaway, right?
Yes.
Like, if you love it and it makes you happy, then it matters. It
Embrace
matters
that.
to you, and who gives a shit what other people think.
Who does? Honestly. I mean, but like embrace you. Like,
Right.
I think that's our overall message here
Yes.
is like,
Be
not only
you.
are we trying to tell everybody to love themselves, but like, I think we're learning to kind of love ourselves in
definitely.
this. Because obviously I already love you, so you don't have to worry about that. But like me trying to love me, like I don't, and man, I'm so lucky that I found this opportunity this young in life, right?
agree.
Like I'm just in my 30s.
Yeah,
Like
we're so lucky.
if I can find myself now, like, man, what's that opening up for me for like the rest of my life?
know.
Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like I've got this trajectory coming my way that I'm just like, yeah, I'm in. I'm here for it. I'm here for this energy, Erin.
We're in for good things here.
energized.
And we hope that our followers are too.
Yes,
So,
please. Like,
yeah.
take the opportunity and reflect in yourself. And like, and if you have that like inner battle of like, well, no, that's not really a hobby. Like, everybody does that. I'm here to tell you, like, push through that, because that's what I did. And like, there was just like suddenly like I almost find like a renewed interest in like my hidden hobbies.
Yeah, you think like, okay, these do matter. These are
Yeah.
important to me, and I want to dive into them some more, maybe.
Absolutely.
Or even tell people about them. Share them with people.
I want to find
Yeah.
somebody to explore those with, because like, like my daughters, like, we talked about how like it's really hard to find like a friendship in adulthood because it's like, I don't even know what to do with my hands. Whereas like my kids can walk on the playground. Like Lennon, the other day I watched her and she was like, "Hi kid, I see you brought a dog. Do you like dogs? I like dogs. Want to play a game about
I
dogs?"
know. It's so simple when you're
Brilliant.
a kid, right?
So
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Why don't I walk up to somebody
I
and be
know.
like, "Hey, I see you're wearing a Southwest piece. I like Southwest
Yeah.
pieces.
Why
You wanna
don't we
talk
do that?
about
Why
Southwest
don't we do
pieces?"
that as an adult?
I don't know.
I know.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe because they'd be like, "Who are you?"
But
Don't
why
talk to
aren't
me.
we more open as adults? So,
Right?
yeah.
But maybe there
Yeah.
are more open adults out there who are like just waiting for somebody to
Yeah.
do that, because maybe they want to do
I mean, I
that.
think there probably are. I think we're all probably lonely in some ways and want to just connect with people.
Just wanna
So
meet somebody,
I
like-
think
Just be
we
ourselves.
Just need to be ourselves.
Just be ourselves.
Do what you feel is important
Love,
to you. What you
self-love.
love to do. Be open.
Positive, selfish.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love it.
I feel like we stumbled. Like every episode we do, I'm like, we've stumbled onto something. We're onto something here, Erin. I like we've done enough of these episodes that I'm like, we're just geniuses. We found another thing. Like my mind is just constantly. Do you ever
Yes.
have to like decompress after these episodes?
Oh my gosh, yes, of
because
course.
I feel like
There's so
we
much.
blow my mind.
Yep.
And then I like just like I have like this almost like a hangover kind of like me just sitting and reflecting on the things that we talk about, and then it's just like I feel like I wake up the next day almost like a new person.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like I see the world through a different lens,
Yeah.
and I'm just like
I mean, we're in therapy right now.
therapy is great.
The Art of Hobbyness therapy. You're welcome.
Yeah, but I just feel like, I mean, if we can, like, at the very least, if this podcast just helps you and I just sit here and like find our truest version of ourselves, what a success. But like, if we can also offer that to others out there and build like this community of just like self-love and like self-reflection and like waking up another day and being like worlds
Energized and excited.
positively,
to looking
like,
forward to the next thing.
what
Yeah.
a success.
I agree.
I'm here for it,
I
Erin.
agree.
I think that's what
I
we're
agree.
here for. The
I
art of
agree.
happiness. We're self-love, and we're going to help you find that self-love.
That's right.
Done. Check it
All right,
out.
done. All
Give the
right.
intro, Erin. The exit. Yeah, the outro.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed us today on The Art of Hobbyness. We had a lot of fun talking about hidden hobbies. We hope you join us for more next time.
More
Tam and Erin signing out.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Hobbyness. Be sure to leave a review and rating. And for a little extra Erin and Tam fun, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Pinterest for behind the scenes footage of our journey to find happiness.